Hey, welcome back. So this is my fourth video. If you've watched the other three, you might have noticed an overall theme. So first video was on the start of my journey. Second video was on figuring out what is it you want. And the third video was really understanding why change is hard and how change affects the people in our lives. And ultimately what I'm really getting out here is living with intention. Think about all the things that you do and ask yourself, how many of them originated from purely within yourself? How many of them came to be within you because of decisions other people made or actions, external pressures, what have you? And now I want to bring this to the subject of eating. Another odd question for you, and I want you to really think about this one, but where did you learn not just how to eat, but what to eat? Seems like a really odd question. If you ask somebody, where did you learn to eat? Well, idiot, we are born knowing how to eat. Whether you're nursing or what have you, you start eating instinctively, immediately. What I'm really asking about is what you eat. Think about the things that you have maybe in your kitchen, in your pantry, wherever you keep your food, and ask yourself, how did I get to the point that I was putting these in my life, that these are the things that I was getting? Not from a point of judgment, but curiosity. Where did I get the idea to get these particular food items? Assuming you're the one doing the buying, of course. Generally, people learn what to eat from a few different sources. So common one is family. You grow up and the people who are responsible for your care, often your parents, feed you a certain way, so you build off of that. Could be culture. Maybe there are specific foods that are particular to your culture, and of course you're going to focus on having those in your life. Another piece is local food availability. I know nowadays it seems like you can get anything at any time. Those of us who live in places like the United States, certainly, depending on specifically where you live in the US, but depending on who you are and where you are and when you were born, your local food availability might have heavily influenced what it is you purchased and what you purchase now. There can also be personal values. So previous video, I mentioned veganism, but that is a personal value. In so many ways, the way we eat is not really directly tied to specific nutritional requirements. So of course, personal values around the treatment of animals, for example, can come into play. And we think about it, ads, grocery store placement, of course, those have a big influence on what we end up buying. If you really think about what you eat, did specific nutritional needs come up at all? Now you might say, well, there are certain things that I've changed up over time because they're healthier. But what do you base that on? Do you base that on things that you've heard, things that you kind of understand? But if you were really challenged on, well, what do you mean by that? Would you really be able to answer? Do you truly understand why it is that you're doing what you're doing? Why you're eating what you're eating? How many of us say, well, I'm buying these foods because they meet certain nutritional requirements? Chances are, if you're saying that, you've already walked this path at least somewhat. And I can only speak from my own experience. It doesn't seem like that's a very common response. Most people don't seem to say, well, I need so many calories, I need so much protein, I need so many carbs. Instead, it's, well, I enjoy this food, which you should, by the way. No sense choking down a kale salad if you don't like it. You might think it's healthy, but that's actually not a good idea. Well, I'm sure we'll get into that eventually. Food is really just the fuel for the human body, the same way you might fill up the gas tank in your car. We know what kind of gas to put in our cars, but many of us don't really understand what kinds of food and how much food we need to put in our systems. What is our, calorie requirements, our nutritional requirements? Does it strike you as odd that we live much of our lives, some of us all of our lives, without ever really knowing or understanding that and the impacts of that? Eating is very basic because it's something we all have to do. If you are watching this video, you clearly know how to eat. So a very basic part of just being a human being, but it's also tremendously complex. And that can be intimidating. This sort of modern day food availability is also an interesting challenge. It's not something that we were developed with. Even just a few decades in the past, it was not always a given that you were going to have a particular food on hand at any given time. Often you simply ate what was available seasonally or, again, based on your environment or both. Largely, the choices were sort of made for us, but now we have so much choice. It can be difficult to determine, what is it that we actually want from all of these choices. If we choose to intentionally seek a, quote, healthier path, we have to figure out what that means in the larger context of what we have available to us. So next time you're going through your kitchen or you're at the store, that's just something to think about. Now, I'm going to kind of do a dig at myself here and ask What does healthy versus unhealthy eating even really mean? There's no bad food. It's really all about context. So I've always kind of cringed inside a little bit every single time I've talked about healthy or healthier eating. Healthier, I guess, isn't so bad because that talks to an intention. Whatever you are eating right now, will you want to do healthier than that? Great. But healthy eating, that really varies a lot from person to person. It depends on, where you're at in your path. For example, if you're a bodybuilder, I'm not, but if you are, healthier eating for you is probably going to look very differently than somebody who's never really thought about this at all and maybe is struggling with weight or health. This is just a sort of a general example. No shots fired here. But if you're somebody who is already living a very quote unquote healthy lifestyle, and somebody were to say to you, well, a healthier choice would be to have a 6-pack of soda every day, you'd say, what the hell are you talking about? No, that's definitely not a healthier option than what I'm doing right now. But if you go through 2 6-packs a day and you cut back to 1 6-pack, that is a healthier choice. It's very tempting to say, well, no, it should be 0 soda in all cases, right? That's not how people work. And that is not a good idea if you're brand new and you're going through, again, an example, 12 sodas a day. Good chance you're setting yourself up for failure. It's really small changes that are the best changes because those are the ones we can generally stick to, reinforce, find success in, and then as we master those changes, we can make additional changes. And that's true of many different types of growth. If you haven't been in a gym for 10 years, haven't worked out or anything like that, you're not going to go in and start setting new records for weightlifting. It's the same thing for food. If you are on a path that isn't really intentional and hasn't been under a lot of control, don't go directly to all of the things that you think you should be doing. Let's get there gradually. There are many different paths to get there, and I think we're going to talk about some of those next time. So see you in the next video.